Welcome to the deep dive. Today, you've sent us down a really, really fascinating path. We're going to unpack chapter 56 of The Oneness of God, the BFG Movement Handbook, specifically their Christian edition of the Tao Te Ching.
And this handbook, its whole aim seems to be a new light. They call it a new expression of God's love.
Right.
And the goal, they state, is to restore truth. This chapter, Oneness of God, is particularly interesting, I think, because it blends Christian ideas with, Taoism, things that might seem pretty different at first glance.
Exactly. So your curiosity got us here, and our mission really is to dig into the key ideas in this chapter. We want to understand how they're interpreting these concepts within, a Christian framework.
And connect it back to practice.
Yes, and importantly, connect them to how we can actually live out our faith. We'll be drawing on those renewal and respond sections from the handbook that you provided. You brought us this really compelling material, and we're going to explore what it truly means to grasp this mystic oneness of God that it describes.
Okay, so where should we start? Those opening lines, baby. Those who know do not talk. Those who talk do not know.
Yeah, let's jump right in there. What do those lines immediately bring up for you?
Maybe true understanding isn't something you can just easily put into words. Like, it hints at something deeper, maybe more experiential.
It makes me think about those moments when you feel you really understand something profound.
It points to this idea that maybe genuine insight is more about a state of being rather than just thinking about it or talking about it. And the handbook itself connects this straight to James, quick to listen, slow to speak.
And slow to anger, yeah.
Right. And also Psalm 46.10, be still and know that I am God. So you see this theme emerging already, that maybe a deeper connection with God comes through humility, through quiet reflection.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit more. Silence and knowing. The renewal section gives us a mindset principle here. Embrace silence and humility and understanding. It suggests practical things like pausing before acting, really listening in conversations, and it brings up Psalm 46.10 again to reinforce it.
And there's an aim associated with that too, right?
Yeah, aim for humility and quiet wisdom. It really emphasizes listening over speaking as the path to wisdom. Ties it back to James 1.19 again.
And the practice section, what does it suggest we actually do?
It's called practice silence and listening. It highlights the benefit of, creating those quiet moments to maybe better hear God's voice.
And also how active listening in our daily interactions can lead to better decisions, better understanding. It's not just about external quiet, but like inner stillness.
And then the respond section broadens it out, doesn't it? Shows this isn't just a Christian thing.
Exactly. It pulls in wisdom from other traditions, quotes the Dalai Lama on silence being powerful, Quran 2.83 on speaking good words, which implies thinking first.
Right. Consideration.
And Bhagavad Gita 2.47, suggesting action can come from inner stillness.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It really points towards a kind of universal truth that quieting down both outside and inside is, crucial for deeper wisdom.
Regardless of your specific path.
Right. In that stillness, you create space for insights you just miss otherwise in all the noise.
Okay, so the chapter then says, close the mouth, shut the door to senseless ideas. That feels like a logical next step from valuing silence. If you're being more intentional about when you speak, it makes sense you'd also be more careful about the thoughts you let in. If you're not just filling your head with, mental chatter, you're maybe better placed to evaluate ideas that come your way.
And the handbook connects this to scripture.
Romans 12.2, the whole renewing of your mind idea. And Philippians 4.8, focusing on what's true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, all that.
So it's about actively protecting your mind.
Exactly. Guarding it against negativity, falsehood, senseless ideas, as the chapter puts it.
And the renewal section picks this up with a mindset principle. Guard the heart and mind from distractions.
Makes sense.
It talks about limiting things like, too much social media, gossip, and focusing instead on things that build faith. It references Colossians 3.2, setting our minds on things above.
And the aim follows from that.
Yep. Aim to guard your mind and heart. Really emphasizes protecting thoughts, focusing on the good and true. Philippians 4.8 again.
So it's quite consistent with the scripture references.
Very. And the practice reinforces it. Practice discernment of thoughts and ideas. Like intentionally filtering what comes in, replacing negative stuff with godly thoughts. Philippians 4.8 one more time.
So it's not passive avoidance, it's active cultivation.
Exactly. Cultivating good mental soil, you could say.
And again, the response section shows this isn't unique, that vigilance over thoughts is valued elsewhere.
Totally. It mentions Romans 12.2 again, but also brings in Buddhist teachings about not just blindly accepting things, but seeking truth yourself.
Interesting.
Also, Quran 17.9, guiding towards what's most upright. And the Bhagavad Gita 2.13, contrasting the clarity of the wise with the confusion of the undiscerning.
So across these different traditions, there's this shared sense of how powerful our inner world is. Renewing the mind, examining beliefs, seeking the right path, valuing wisdom.
Yeah.
The core idea seems to be, we need to be mindful of the thoughts and ideas that shape us. Discernment is fundamental.
Okay, the chapter then shifts a bit. Blunt the cunning ways, unravel the daily entanglements, soften the glare of glory. These seem to tackle how we interact with the world.
They do. Blunt the cunning ways, rejecting deceit, manipulation. And the renewal section lines up with this. The mindset is reject deceptive and manipulative ways. Live with integrity. It points to Proverbs 12.22. Basically that God detests lying but delights in trustworthiness. The aim is simple, aim for integrity, honesty. And the practice, just practice integrity and honesty day in, day out.
And soften the glare of glory. That one feels like a call to humility, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Moving away from needing the spotlight, needing external validation.
Which is hard today. There's so much pressure to project, perfection.
There really is. And the renewal part addresses this directly. The mindset is cultivate humility and avoid the pursuit of glory, emphasizing God's approval over human praise. It references Matthew 20.26, Jesus saying the greatest must be the servant. So the aim becomes aim for humble service, giving God the glory through what we do. Practice humility and service in everyday life. It's a reminder that real significance, maybe, is found in serving, not in seeking applause.
And this focus on humility, the respond section finds echoes elsewhere too.
It does. It cites Matthew 20.26, obviously, but then it mentions C.S. Lewis on humility, saying his ideas align with Buddhist thought on the subject. And it quotes Quran 49.13, the most honored by God are the most mindful of him, and Bhagavad Gita 9.22, about God providing for those who are humbly devoted.
So humility isn't weakness. It's seen as a vital spiritual strength across the board.
Exactly. It shifts focus from the ego, from needing outside approval, to something deeper, something rooted beyond ourselves, allows for real connection.
Okay, then the chapter says something quite profound. Become one with the dust of the world. This is the mystic oneness of God.
That sounds potentially tricky to interpret. It does. And the Handbook doesn't take it as like literal merging with dirt or some abstract philosophy.
Right.
They interpret it more as a deep connection with humanity, rooted in love, sacrifice, like Christ's self-giving love. They point to John 17.
Jesus praying for unity.
Right. That his followers would be one, just as he and the Father are one. And the renewal section connects this one with the dust idea to the mindset of embrace God's presence in the mundane.
Finding purpose in ordinary tasks.
Yes. Humility in the everyday. It references Colossians 3.23, work heartily as for the Lord.
And the related aim is aim to live with peace and simplicity, finding contentment, seeing God in the small things. And the practice is practice simplicity and contentment, cultivating gratitude, letting go of materialism. It brings in 1 Timothy 6.6, godliness with contentment is great gain.
So being one with the dust is less about abstraction, more about humble, loving presence in the real world.
Seems so. Then the chapter elaborates on this mystic oneness, saying those who get it are not affected by closeness, nor affected by abandonment, are not affected by profiting, nor affected by harming, are not affected by honor, nor affected by disgrace. Wow, that's a deep state of inner peace.
It really is. A detachment from the ups and downs. The renewal section tackles this with mindset principles like the Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still. Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And also the mindset of detach from the world's judgments and pursuits, prioritizing God's truth over what the world thinks. Cites Galatians 1.10.
Seeking God's approval, not people's.
Exactly. And the aims follow. Aim for inner strength and peace, that calm, not dependent on externals. References Philippians 4.7, the peace that passes understanding. And aim for freedom from praise or fear, again, seeking God's view. Galatians 1.10 again.
And the
Practice peace and resilience. Grounding ourselves in God's love as an anchor. Isaiah 26.3 is referenced perfect peace for the steadfast mind.
Okay.
And practice freedom from approval or disapproval. Knowing our value is in God's eyes.
Focused on that God-centered validation.
And checking the respond section for this idea of inner peace. John 14.27, Jesus is peace, not the world's peace. Buddhist teachings on a pure mind, bringing joy. Quran 94.6, the promise of ease with hardship. Bhagavad Gita 14.23, the wise person undisturbed by pleasure or pain, and for freedom from external validation. It brings up Galatians 1.10, again, Buddhist ideas on inner contentment, Quran 9.40, reminding that God is present even when others aren't, and Bhagavad Gita 14.20 about transcending worldly dualities.
It's really striking how these ideas, deep connection and detachment, inner peace, regardless of outer chaos, echo across traditions.
It is remarkable. It suggests this profound understanding that real, lasting peace comes from inside, from connecting to something constant, not from chasing worldly approval or possessions.
Okay, finally the chapter concludes. Thus, the mystic oneness of God is treasured by the world. And the Handbook links this to Ephesians 3.1-6.
Yes, which talks about the mystery of Christ, previously hidden, now revealed, including to the Gentiles. It's like this oneness, this connection is a precious gift meant for everyone.
And the final renewal points wrap this up.
They do. The mindset is treasure the oneness with God above all, seeing God's presence as the ultimate treasure. It references Matthew 6.33.
Seek first the kingdom.
Exactly. The aim to treasure God's oneness above all, cultivating that deep intimacy. And the practice is practice the mystical oneness with God, consciously cherishing God's presence.
So bringing this all together as we wrap up our deep dive, it feels like the heart of this chapter is about, well, cultivating a really rich inner life.
I think so.
The power of silence for wisdom, humility, and how we understand and act. Finding that deep peace that isn't shaken by life's storms.
Yeah.
And ultimately seeing that connection with God, that oneness, as the most precious thing.
Absolutely. And what's really thought-provoking about the material you shared is how this particular source, this Christian edition of the Tao Te Ching, gives us such a unique lens on these, timeless spiritual principles.
It does feel fresh.
Yeah, it invites us to look at familiar ideas maybe a bit differently, potentially uncovering deeper insights or just making us think about them in a new way.
It really does. So maybe something for you listening to reflect on. Which of these ideas really resonates with you right now? Is it that value of silence? Or maybe guarding your thoughts more carefully? Or perhaps the challenge of seeking God's approval over pleasing people? Or finding God in the everyday, the mundane?
Good questions to ponder.
Yeah. And maybe just think about one small intentional step you could take this week to cultivate that principle a bit more in your own life. Thank you so much for bringing this chapter to us, for inviting this deep dive.